Welcome to RichTrybe. I see so many folks out there trying to build generational wealth, and they're chasing lucky jackpots, trying to time the market perfectly, or thinking they need some kind of genius IQ. But true wealth, it's built on something much quieter and, honestly, far more foundational. Today in this explainer, we're unpacking the true compounding cost of impatience.
It's a tough pill to swallow, John. Everybody wants the secret to getting rich quick. And honestly, a lot of people feel like the system is just rigged against them from the very start. So are we really just going to tell them they need to sit around and wait?
I promise it's much deeper than that. And the psychology of wealth is actually fascinating when you really dive into the data.
Now, to really grasp this, I want you to consider a pretty fundamental question. Would you eat a single marshmallow right now, or would you wait 15 years to buy a house?
Okay, hold on. Eat a marshmallow now or wait 15 years for a house. How does a childhood candy test connect to buying real estate? That sounds kind of absurd.
It does sound absurd, right? But it goes all the way back to the 1970s Stanford marshmallow experiment by psychologist Walter Mischel. He put young kids in a room with a single marshmallow and gave them a choice. Eat it right now or wait about 15 minutes alone in the room, and if they could hold out, they'd get a second marshmallow. Look, every dollar you spend today on immediate gratification is a dollar that literally cannot be saved, invested, and multiplied for your future. It is the literal choice between now versus later.
Okay, so what actually happened to the kids who waited? Did holding out for a second piece of candy actually matter in the real world?
It changed absolutely everything. Michel and his team tracked these kids for decades, and as you'll see, the kids who waited that 15 minutes, the ones they called the high delayers, they experienced drastically better lifelong outcomes. We're talking higher SAT scores, lower body mass index, significantly better financial savings as adults, and a much higher ability to cope with stress. They were even less likely to struggle with addiction later in life.
So the narrative that came out of this was pretty simple and really powerful, right? If you have the willpower to delay gratification, you'll be successful. You will accumulate wealth. It essentially framed financial behavior as this pure, ultimate test of self-discipline.
But John, I've got to challenge that assumption right here. Because blaming people for just lacking discipline kind of feels like a rich man's luxury. What if the environment doesn't actually reward patience? Is it really just about sheer willpower? That is exactly the right question to ask, Monique. And the data actually shows us it's not just about willpower at all. Right, because if we look at a 2012 study out of the University of Rochester, it completely flipped this whole pure willpower narrative on its head. They altered the original experiment by introducing a totally new variable, trust. They split the kids into two groups. The first group was given a broken promise by the researcher before the marshmallow test even started, so an unreliable tester. And the second group had a promise fulfilled by a reliable tester. And the results brilliantly illustrate why some people struggle so much with saving money. The reliable tester group waited up to 4 times longer, an average of 12 minutes, for that second marshmallow. But the unreliable group? They ate it almost immediately, which proves that a child's, or really an adult's, ability to be patient is heavily dictated by their trust in their environment, which is a massive paradigm shift. Think about it from a wealth perspective. If you don't actually believe the reward is coming, it's completely irrational to wait. You'd literally be a fool not to eat the marshmallow right now.
And this goes even deeper when we look at replications of this study in 2018 and 2024, along with some really interesting research from the University of Pittsburgh. They found that a person's childhood socioeconomic status, or SES, heavily impacts what economists call temporal discounting. But let's clarify that for the average person. Basically, if you grew up in a household where money was tight, a delayed reward just wasn't guaranteed. An unexpected emergency could wipe it out tomorrow.
Exactly. It's not a lack of willpower. It is a literal survival instinct. If your environment taught you that promises get broken and resources disappear, your brain is hardwired to take the quick win. Get it while you can. But to build real wealth, we have to recognize that instinct and actively rewire it.
Which brings us to the behavioral life cycle hypothesis. I want you to look at this as a literal biological war happening inside your brain right now. You've got the planner and the doer.
And they are constantly fighting for control over your wallet.
Precisely. The planner, which is driven by your prefrontal cortex, is designing your wealthy future. It understands reasoning, long-term consequences, and wealth accumulation. But the doer? That's your limbic system just screaming for a dopamine hit right now. The dopamine hit of a one-click purchase, sports betting, or a shiny new car. The doer wants to spend now. The planner wants to invest for later. And this fundamental biological conflict is exactly why saving money feels physically difficult sometimes.
Okay, so you're saying self-made millionaires aren't just out there making these flashy, high-risk trades. It's really just about giving the planner the upper hand. Absolutely not. Making wild bets, no. Wealth is actually a very unglamorous habit. I always go back to this core truth. Successful people do consistently what others do occasionally. To build lasting net worth, you have to strengthen the planner. That makes so much sense. It's not about sheer intensity, it's about the long game. Exactly. It's about saving a regular amount of money from every single paycheck for decades without stopping. It's about sitting through market downturns without panic selling. It is the quiet, honestly, kind of boring discipline of delayed gratification compounding over time.
And we actually have hard data to back that up, John. There's a fascinating study using data from the National Longitudinal Survey of Youth that looked at how grit, which they defined as perseverance and passion for long-term goals, predicts financial success.
And what did they find? Because I love it when we can put tangible numbers on these abstract psychological concepts.
Oh, they put a literal dollar amount on it. They found that a mere 1-unit increase in a 30-year-old's grit score predicts an exact $25,800 increase in their net worth, plus another $430 in additional assets. Grit is incredibly strongly associated with positive financial behaviors like saving and long-term planning. So quite literally, it pays tens of thousands of dollars to be gritty and persistent. So let's look at the actual math of patience here. Imagine you get a windfall of $10,000 at age 20. Now, 10 grand is a lot of money, but it's not exactly retire on a beach money.
The doer in your brain wants a new car, a nice watch, or a vacation.
Right. Because the limbic system wants that immediate status bump.
Right.
But the planner knows the secret of compound interest. If you sacrifice that immediate gratification and simply invest that $10,000 at a conservative 5% interest rate and do absolutely nothing but wait, by age 60, it's grown to over $70,000. That is how the wealthy manufacture money out of thin air. They leverage time to create passive wealth.
Let me ask a clarifying question about real life here, though. Does this only apply to investing in stocks, or do we see this temporal discounting play out in other areas of life?
Oh, it plays out everywhere, especially in education and career building.
Yeah, think about the choice between entering the workforce immediately after high school versus going to college. If you start working right out of high school earning an average salary, you could easily be almost $140,000 ahead of your peers 4 years later. That's a huge early lead. The ultimate immediate reward.
But look at the delayed payoff. Over a lifetime, college graduates tend to earn over $1 million more on average than those with only a high school diploma. It takes 4 years of sacrificing wages, delaying that gratification, to yield a 7-figure payoff down the road.
Now, understanding this psychology is step 1. Step 2 is actually applying it so you can guarantee your own financial success. And we're going to give you the exact actionable blueprint to do that in just a second. But before we move on to that final blueprint, I want to invite you to join our community of planners. Please subscribe to RichTrybe channel, like, comment, and share. It really helps us keep bringing you this level of in-depth financial strategy.
Okay, John, finite willpower doesn't work. We've totally established that. So how does the average person actually engineer their environment to guarantee they build wealth? You use this exact blueprint. Step 1, set up commitment devices. This is anything that locks you into a decision right now that benefits you later, completely removing the temptation from the equation. And step 2 is crucial. Automate your investments. Look, if a portion of your paycheck is automatically routed to your savings or investment account before you even see it, you don't even have to make the choice to save. The planner has already made the decision for you, and the doer can't spend money it never saw. Exactly. And step 3, remove saved credit cards from your digital wallets and online retailers. Introduce helpful friction. By forcing yourself to physically get up, find your wallet, and type in those numbers, you give your prefrontal cortex the few seconds it needs to override an impulsive purchase. You make doing the wrong thing hard.
You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be consistent. Designing these systems just takes the heavy lifting right off your shoulders. Because building wealth isn't a secret reserved for the elite. It is the predictable outcome of thousands of small, disciplined decisions compounding over time. It's about recognizing that biological urge to spend, understanding exactly where that urge comes from, and systematically outsmarting it. So as we close this explainer out, I want to leave you with a provocative question to apply to your own financial journey starting today. You have the power to choose the second marshmallow. So, what will your future self thank you for?